Buddhist art, just like Christian art, initially had no images of its founder, no images of the Buddha, just as in initially in Christianity, no images of Jesus. I think in the beginning it was considered a disrespectful thing to do, so symbols were used instead, alternative methods of conveying the essence of the nature of the Buddha, for example. What we're looking at right here is just one of the famous early images that come to us from Buddhism. And what you can see is the throne of the Buddha. Okay, that's located right here. We don't, however, see the Buddha. This is a representation that refers to the story of Buddha sitting in meditation under the Bodhi tree, under the tree of enlightenment, which is located back here, being assaulted by evil spirits representing chaos and disorder. And of course, those evil spirits don't want the Buddha to become enlightened. This is one of the most famous, but also one of the common images, early images of, I'm going to say, referencing the Buddha and the Buddha's history, the Buddha's story, the Buddha's nature. Another would be the footprints of the Buddha. So common representations suggesting, symbolically, suggesting the Buddha without actually portraying him. When we do get to creating these early images, we have to look to influences actually that come more from the West in terms of sculptural or artistic history. And one of the prime places is actually going to be Persia or present day Iran. Because of the influence they once had over India and Pakistan. There's also, and some of you might be surprised by this, but there's also very, very powerful Hellenistic influence in the region of the core where Buddhism arises. And that is because of the conquest into this territory by Alexander the Great, which we will return to. This is a really famous capital on top of a column that comes from India. It's figure 3.4 in our textbook, and it was created under the rule of a pretty important Indian ruler in north central India in the 3rd century. His name is Ashoka. He is going to convert to Buddhism, and he's going to be pretty important, in fact, for helping it to spread throughout India in its early period of growth and development. In order to, I'd say, use Buddhism as a backdrop for his own palace complex, he is going to draw on the Greco-Roman world. So he's going to look at Greece, look at Rome, and Persian influence. And he's going to be able to find both of those actually by turning to influences that come from Persepolis, which is one of the major sites that still survives today in modern Iran, but of course, this is from the ancient Persians. He is going to turn to that source, and what we're looking at here is an imperial pillar, in other words, from his palace complex. And he's going to use these carvings as a way to promote the ideas, the teachings of the Buddha. This particular one, which has become so famous, commemorates the first sermon. And this pillar was actually located in the Deer Park. And I do believe that you can see it in the museum there today. It also has become so popular that it is used, and I'll try and show you a picture shortly. It's used as a symbol of modern India. So this is super famous, and I think it has become a symbol of nationalism for India as well, and its grand past. It shows us 4 lions. These lions are endorsed, and let me just point this word out because I think it's one of O'Reilly's favorite words. It's down here. Endorsed just means back to back or butt to butt. In fact, you don't see the backs or the butts of these lions as they kind of spin around a central core and are merged together to become one. But the fact that it's animal to animal more or less back to back, makes it a Dorst. It can be in pairs as well as in fours, like we get here. How do we know that this is a reference to the first sermon? Well, one of the ways that we can tell this is the prominent position of the wheel. And the wheel can be found in two places. This means that in the 3rd century BCE, a couple hundred years basically after the death of the Buddha, we're still relying on symbols because these are references, direct references to the teachings of the Buddha. They have been conveyed to us with influence from the West, and in this case, I'm particularly referencing the influence of ancient Persia, and in ancient Persia, the Greco-Roman influence that came there. In the lions, the pattern on the chest of our lion and the mane of our lion, this comes out of influences from carvings at Persepolis, as well as the very highly polished surface, and as we'll see in a minute, the very common use of endorsed animals that appear as capitals at Persepolis itself, with their symbolic suggestions of strength and power and authority, okay, which we'll look at. The lions here particularly reference the Buddha as Shakyamuni, as a sage of the Shakya clan. The 4 lions, we got 4, so anytime we have 4, we have to ask the question, is this a reference to the 4 directions, the 4 quarters? And yes, it is. It's a reference to essentially the Dharma, the teaching of the Buddha coming out to all directions in the world. And the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, is represented by the Wheel of Enlightenment, which is placed both on the uh, circular ring underneath our lions. We've got a wheel here and a bull here. And a wheel here, and so forth. Originally, also, there would have been a wheel that would have been supported by the 4 lions. In other words, it's as if the Buddha himself is supporting his own teachings, the teachings essentially that are known as Dharma. And it is the Buddha, of course, who turns the wheel of enlightenment, sharing his teachings with us. The wheel also is an ancient symbol in India, so I want everybody to remember that. We have very strong connections with the past, and that past goes all the way back to the time when we can document imagery in the Indus Valley. And this is another Indus Valley seal located right here. We have a bull, and in this case, I do think that it is an image of strength and power. And I'd like you to go up here to the writing. And I'd like you to see this and perhaps think of a very early form of a wheel that perhaps was also a sun symbol. That becomes a kind of origin for this symbol continuing through Hinduism and ultimately through Buddhism as well. The base of the capital also, and I'm talking about the region right down here, consists of the petals of a lotus flower. Now they're inverted, they're upside down. We're probably used to looking at them in the other direction, but they're still the leaves of a lotus. So once again, it's a continuation of a fairly standard symbol that references purification, purity. And of course, we can trace that back, we believe, to the Indus Valley and to their ritual baths. On the left, we have a capital, a bull capital, that comes to us from Persepolis, from the ancient Persian Achaemenids, who produce one of the world's largest empires, and along the way produce splendid architecture and craftsmanship in carving. The bulls that we're looking at share with the lions on our right that are now serving Buddhism a kind of swelling energy that I think also is carried over into the early carvings that were created under Ashoka. And if you look at those bulls, folks, yep, they are endorsed. They're basically butt to butt, and the two animals merge into a single shared body. In the case of Persia and the bulls, they were clearly references to strength. The animals were acquired for purposes of display, suggesting the power of the empire and of the emperor or the ruler. And in the case of the bulls or the animals underneath the lions, and there are other animals as well as bulls, again, I do think it's a reference to the power of the Dharma, the power of the Buddha, and with the lions, the roar of the Dharma and of the Buddha himself. So we're selecting animals that are rather grand and powerful. As promised, here is a stamp from India, and I'm showing it to you because I want you to get a sense of the feeling of national pride for some of the creations that were done in the 3rd century BCE under Ashoka, and that would certainly reference our lion capital.